What if the place you called home was never meant to be escaped? And what if the truth behind it was buried centuries ago? In Widow's Bay, Episode 6, everything we thought we understood about the island gets ripped open. Because this is not just another chapter, this is where the nightmare begins, and it starts with a grave that should have stayed buried. 300 years after Richard Warren's death, Mayor Tom Loftus, Wyck, and Patricia are standing in a graveyard at Widow's Bay. The ground is fresh, the air feels wrong, and Wyck is digging up the grave of the island's founder. Richard Warren. What they find inside changes everything, but we don't get the answer yet, because the story pulls us back. Far back, to 1702. Before the island became a legend, it was just beginning. A ship cuts through heavy fog. A young woman stands on deck. Her name is Sarah Westcott, and she is arriving at Widow's Bay to marry a man she has never met. Richard Warren, the founder of the island. But from the moment she arrives, something feels off. The fog isn't natural, it is alive. A carriage driver tells her something chilling. Once the fog arrives, no one enters or leaves the island again. Sarah jokes nervously, asking if Richard controls the weather, but no one laughs. Because this place doesn't joke. It survives. As Sarah is taken toward the village, she sees something disturbing. Homes marked with red crosses. People acting strange. Silent suffering everywhere. And then she hears it. Widow's Bay is not a town. It is a warning. And Sarah has just walked straight into it. But what she doesn't know yet is that her marriage is not the beginning of her life here. It is the beginning of her imprisonment. And Richard Warren is already waiting.
Sarah finally reaches the church, and that is where she meets Pastor Collins. He looks at her, like someone who has already failed before she even speaks. He gives her a warning. If she ever feels unsafe, she must come to him. Then he says something worse. Richard Warren's vows are not normal. And that is when Richard appears. Hamish Linklater plays him with something deeply unsettling. Not madness, not cruelty, something controlled but broken. The wedding happens quickly, too quickly, and immediately after, Sarah is taken to meet Richard's children. The children are not warm, they are not playful, they are afraid, especially the youngest, Frances. Sarah gives her a small brooch. For a moment, the child smiles, but then the others demand gifts too. Not greed, hunger, for affection, for anything human. That night, Sarah expects a wedding night, a beginning. Instead, Richard hears the church bell and leaves, just like that. Sarah is alone in a house that doesn't feel lived in, but watched. She writes in her journal, trying to understand where she has been placed. But then, Richard returns, and everything changes. He is sitting at the table, unmoving, eyes rolled back, hands bloodied. On the table in front of him, a knife, the pendant, and black mushrooms, the same mushrooms that will later destroy minds in the present timeline. Sarah freezes, and then Richard wakes up. He tells her something chilling. Leave me. Let me stay like this, like it is normal, like this is just another night on Widow's Bay. And that is when Sarah realizes she didn't marry a man. She entered something much worse. The next morning, death is everywhere. Sarah sees a burial in progress. A town that feels infected, not just with disease, but with fear. A woman warns her, there is a plague on the island, but it doesn't just kill people, it changes them, makes them violent, unrecognizable. That night, Sarah overhears something crucial. Ezra Lowry is speaking to Richard. The sickness is spreading. People are dying, but before they die, they kill others. Chaos is spreading through Widow's Bay, and Richard is not stopping it. Then Ezra says something dangerous. He accuses Richard of communicating with the island through the pendant, and in that moment, everything snaps. Richard kills Ezra. No warning, no hesitation, just violence. Sarah sees it all, and she runs. But survival on Widow's Bay is not escape. It is silence. She hides. She pretends she saw nothing, but the truth is already inside her. The next morning, Ezra's body is gone, like it never existed. But Sarah finds something underneath the house, a trapdoor, a hidden tunnel system, and inside it, a bloodied cane, the evidence of murder, the evidence of something far deeper. She runs to Collins, and that is when everything is revealed. Richard Warren is not just a leader. He is part of something ancient, something the villagers called the devil, or something like it, and the island may be feeding on sacrifices. Sarah wants to escape, but Collins gives her another option: help them kill Richard. All she has to do is leave the front door unlocked and wait. That night, Sarah makes her choice. She returns home, she unlocks the door, and waits. A man enters, an assassin. The plan begins, but nothing goes right. Richard is attacked, but he does not die. He kills the assassin instead. Covered in blood, he survives, again. And now he knows. Something is wrong. Sarah is trapped, the children are trapped, and Richard decides no one leaves again. The next day, Sarah finds the house empty, locked in, and beneath it, she goes deeper, into the tunnels, and what she finds changes everything. Blood on the walls, ritual signs, a hidden chamber, a chair facing a trapdoor. This is not a home, it is a site of sacrifice. Everything connects now. Bryce, Tom's visions, the mushrooms, the island itself. All of it leads here. Sarah escapes through a well. She runs to Collins, and the final plan is made. Poison Richard, save the children, escape on a ship. But betrayal is never simple. That night, Sarah tries to poison him, but Richard forces her to drink instead. He knows everything. Chaos erupts. Richard tries to kill her, but one of his own sons stops him, and for the first time, Richard is vulnerable. Sarah escapes with the children. They reach the docks, but the ship is already gone. And then, something worse arrives. A woman named Abigail, covered in blood, possessed by violence. She tries to escape with them. Sarah refuses and knocks her out. Then they flee by boat. But Widow's Bay is not finished, because back in the village, Richard is buried alive. Collins and the villagers finally turn on him, but Richard is screaming, not in fear of death, but in fear of breaking something far worse, the pact. He claims he made a deal with something through the black mushrooms, something that kept the island alive, something that demands sacrifice. Without it, everything dies. The villagers don't listen. They bury him, alive. And we return to the present. Wyck stands over Richard's grave. He exhumes the coffin. Tom and Patricia watch, and they open it. But what they find is only the beginning, because the pendant is gone,